Morning. Welcome to Caffeinate Your Career. Today's topic, why it's a good idea to work with recruiters. I'm your host, the career coach with the most, Jason Hopper. With me today is Jim Warner. Jim, welcome back to Caffeinate Your Career.
Thank you, Jason.
Jim, you used to own a staffing agency.
Right. Well, actually, our organization was we were a recruiter. We placed medical sales, marketing, clinical people around the United States for permanent positions at high levels.
Okay. And that's interesting to me. How did you get into that?
Well, my background was medical sales.
Okay.
And as you advance in medical sales, they give you more and more geography to have to deal with. And I found myself back in the day looking at the matchbook to figure out what city I was in.
Lots of travel.
So I decided that I needed to find a next step in my career, which ended up being a recruiter in the medical sales world. So I understood the market, I understood the clients, and just proceeded from there.
Slid right in there.
Yeah.
Interesting. So I'm always interested in how people got into the industry, because I just kind of fell into it.
Did you?
Yeah, it's after university, I needed a job and just had applied to a position. It was a boutique firm right up here in North Dallas, and we had 8 recruiters in house, and mostly recruited HR people, and I was the admin for the company. And part of my job was to take the job requisition and then take the resumes that I saw on Monster Career Builder and match them up, and then give them to the recruiter. And if they made a placement, I got a bonus. And one day I just realized they're making a whole lot more money than I am on the place. So I went, and again, it's a small firm, so I went to go sit down and talk to the president of the company. I'm like, Jack, you need to teach me how to recruit. He goes, why? And I had my spreadsheet that I kept for all the bonus. I slapped it on his desk. I said, that's why. And I said, they're making more money than I am, and I got that part figured out. You need to teach me the rest. And he laughed. He goes, I was hoping you wouldn't figure that out for a couple more months. And they trained me how to be a recruiter, and that was in my career for a while.
Yeah.
So, Jim, I think let's talk first about the benefits of why you might want to work with a recruiter. The first one being that they have access to the hidden job market.
Absolutely. Well, with clients that we worked with regularly, many times they would not post these jobs anywhere other than with their identified, refined recruiter that they knew, they understood the candidate base, they understood where to find these candidates. We were fairly exclusive on some of these jobs where they were not readily available publicly.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. The estimate is that all the jobs that you see on Monster, Career Builder, Indeed, right? That is that's only 30% of the jobs the company's hiring for.
Well, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, oftentimes employers are going to offer bonuses and incentives for referrals.
Absolutely.
And I know staffing companies sometimes will pay out referrals as well. In fact, I just last year was working with a staffing agency and sent over a client, and they got hired, and I can't take the bonus money because I work here for a nonprofit, but they cut a check and gave the referral bonus back to our department.
Well, so yeah. Well, we would do that too. If we had a candidate that we had placed or had a good relationship with, they were not exactly the fit for the job, they would introduce us to candidates and we would pay them a fee.
Yeah. And I think too, they really need to come up with a better term than hidden job market. The jobs aren't hidden. The jobs are there. You just have to know the right people.
Well, exactly.
And that's why the recruiters are good as a conduit to get you into those particular jobs. Like you said, some of them we're exclusives.
Right. Exactly.
Another reason why you may want to work with a recruiter is they have industry insights that you may not be aware of.
You bet. So we understood what our clients wanted to, who they wanted to identify, what skill set, and being a specialist in the area that we focused on, we knew exactly what that person looked like. So having that industry knowledge was beneficial for us and for the candidate that we knew or we thought we knew would be the best fit for that client.
Right, because you and what I found over the years is for almost every industry there is a staffing company, right? And
Right.
they know what is going on in the industry.
Well, as a matter of fact, the better recruiters know when a candidate sneezes in a different state. That's how close we are to our market.
That's funny. Yeah, but this is also very helpful too, especially if somebody's going to want to pivot into doing something else,
Mm-hmm.
because the recruiter knows, yeah, that's not going to work
Mm-hmm.
because of what the industry is looking at today.
Right.
And that's going to change from actually not even year to year, but sometimes by the quarter.
Without a doubt. But if we had a candidate that we felt really had the attributes that a client may be looking for, not necessarily an open position, but we would present that candidate anyway to a hiring manager, and maybe create a job for that individual if that candidate had the right right chemistry, the right skill set, the right career path, background. So despite not even having a job opening, if we had a good relationship with that client, we could maybe place a candidate with a company that doesn't have an open position.
Yeah, I often did that sort of thing as well
Mm-hmm.
as when I was a recruiter. So you would come up with those candidates that are just like a gold mine.
Mm-hmm.
You just know they are going to represent your company well and that they would be a fit. It's like, listen, this guy on paper looks like terrible for you,
Mm-hmm.
but I promise you he's somebody you need to speak with.
Yep.
Okay, Jason, let's have that conversation. And, obviously most of the time, yeah, they'd find something for him.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to lose out on a good employee.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
They have so many marginal employees that are on performance improvement that think maybe one day they're going to improve. We bring that candidate that looks like a rock star in front of them. That PIP is over. That candidate is hired.
I had um, I had a guy that worked for me at one staffing agency that I worked at. I then had moved on to a different company. He walks in the door,
Mhm.
and I recognize him immediately because he was just amazing. Right? And I'm like, hey, listen, do all the paperwork, go watch the safety video, come back, see me.
Mhm.
In the meantime, I get a call from my client. Hey, I just need somebody to come out here for 2 days and clean out this warehouse. I was like,
Mhm.
no problem. I got a guy for you.
Mhm.
And so he finishes the safety video, sits down at my desk. I was like, listen, man, can you please just do me a favor? And he's like, yeah, Jason, anything that you need, anything you need. I'm like, great. So I just need you to go and clean out this warehouse for 2 days. Come back and see me. This is like a Wednesday. I said, come back and see me Monday.
Right.
I was like, we'll find something else for you to do. He's like, happy to do it. Because I knew he was going to be good. He was supposed to be there for 2 days. What he did was he went out, and I knew this would happen. He went out there and kicked butt and was actually there for 2 years. And the only reason that he got let go after 2 years is they were having a reduction in force, and when that happens, contract labor is first to go. But I just knew he would do great because he was a high performer for me at a different company.
Yep.
It happens
It
all
does.
the time.
It does.
The other reasons that recruiters can help you out was with resume and interview preparation.
Yeah. Generally, recruiters don't write resumes. Recruiters are going to suggest to candidates ways to tweak the resume, but in terms of the writing of the resume, you can't look at most recruiters to rewrite your resume for you. I mean, that's essentially your responsibility. Now, there are services that we would refer candidates to that were specialists in writing resumes.
Yeah.
And that was helpful for some. Now that can be a pricey maneuver. I mean, but again, you got to put a little money into yourself, into your training, your background, your resume, and have it the best it can be. Otherwise, the recruiter's sort of challenged by bringing what you produced in front of his client, and we don't get past point A.
That comes up a lot sometimes, which is like, I don't want to send a Word doc because the recruiter can change my resume. And I'm like, okay, so first off, recruiters are busy. They don't have time to start messing around with your resume.
Right.
The second, if they offer a suggestion, it's because they know specifically what the client is looking for, and that was what needs to be highlighted on the resume.
Without a doubt. I agree.
I mean, I have heard stories of like, oh my gosh, they completely changed my resume and I don't have that experience. I'm like, okay, well, that's going to be something that's few and far between.
Yes.
But they're not going to be rewriting a resume for you. You just don't have time.
Exactly.
Interview prep as well, I think goes a long way in letting the candidate know, okay, so Mark's kind of really laid back and he's funny. And so, when you go in there, don't be all stiff.
Mm-hmm.
When you go see him, just kind of know that this is his style, or the opposite, okay, Sally is no nonsense and she just wants you to answer stuff straight to the point.
Yep.
Do not ramble, because they should know going in, like what the reverse is.
Right. However, the recruiter is not going to give you all of the prep information. You still need to do your homework by researching the company, looking at press releases, trying to get as much information you can about that specific position. And that's your responsibility. It's not the recruiter's. The recruiter can help you about personalities and positioning and questions and answers and objections. But in terms of the preparation, a lot of it's up to you.
All of it is up to you.
Yeah.
So, recruiters can be a good ally for sure, but this is your job search, not the recruiter's job search. The recruiter's job is to fill positions.
Yes.
I think, and that's one of the things that is coming up here in a minute. But on the notes, but people misunderstand the role of the recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
They think, oh, the recruiter's going to get me a job. That's not why they're there.
No, right. But let me add something else in terms of how you can use a recruiter is in helping you prep in terms of the back and forth, the interaction you have with the client, what questions again that you should be asking, what questions you shouldn't be asking. That recruiter really wants to help you. What we found is those candidates who came in through a social advertisement, we were competing against those candidates. They weren't anywhere near as poised and as polished as the recruiters that we would send in for that job.
Yeah.
So highly prepped candidates typically gain the job over the non-practiced candidates.
Well, that's a good point too. You need to practice interviewing.
Absolutely.
And Jim, did you know that we have a practice interview program here?
I do know that.
Because you're part of it.
That's right.
It's actually today, guys, we do have a mock interview program. We do it the second and fourth week of each month, so it is today. All spots are filled for today, but if you want to do it next month, it'll be the 13th. Email me. It's virtual. You can practice it and do it anywhere in the world. My email is the letter J, Hopper, HOPPER, at jfsdallas.org. It's 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock Central Time is when we do it. So if you want to do it, email me and let me know. I will get you on the list for next week. They fill up fast. All right, that's the commercial for today. Other reasons to work with recruiter: negotiation assistance.
Yeah, money's a tough subject, and if we can take the emotion out of money and allow the recruiter to help you with regards to getting the compensation that you're looking for. The recruiter has a relationship with the client. The recruiter will know what your expectations are, and will have somewhat more of an understanding to negotiate on your behalf to get you the best compensation possible.
Yeah, I had a client last year who was interviewing at Deloitte,
Mm-hmm.
and it came down to it, and we met, and he was like, I really feel like I should negotiate. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I really feel like you should, because it's in. I mean, there are going to be coaches that are going to be like, oh, yeah, for sure. But like, if it's within your salary range and it's a fair price, take the job. Like, yeah. But he's like, no, there's money on the table. And he was like, determined we are going to negotiate. I'm like, all right, here's what you need to talk to the recruiter about. Because, we were working on what they ended up doing for him to make getting where he wanted to be was he got a signing bonus. Mm-hmm. And like they figured it out. But like that's one of the things that the recruiter can help be the middleman for, and getting you what you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The other thing that is good for working with recruiters, it just saves time.
It does. Again, we were talking about those hidden positions, the relationships that recruiters have with clients. That would really jumpstart your seeking a full-time job if you utilize those contacts and the recruiter and his contacts.
Yeah, I mean, job search, it's not like you have a team.
No.
It's just you. And job search is often lonely and sad. And if you have a recruiter that you're working with, you at least have somebody in your corner that is trying to help get you placed in a position that would fit with their clients.
Right, exactly.
And so then, Jim, that comes up with the next part of this, which is potential drawbacks in working with recruiters. And that is one of them is the recruiters work for the employers, not you. And sometimes your interests are not aligned.
I don't know that I would say that, Jason.
Yeah.
I would say that, the recruiter, has a fine balance. Yes, he's paid by or she is paid by the client, and we have an understanding as to what the client is looking for and so forth. But the same token, we have your interest in mind as well as a candidate. We wouldn't want to put you in a position that you would fail, but on the same token, we are balancing both simultaneously as we go through the interviewing and hiring process.
Ideally.
Yes.
Yeah. But some people are better at their jobs than others. I know some stellar recruiters for sure, mm-hmm. And I also know some that have not been all that great.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. But the one who writes the check to us is the client, and so as a result, we want to fill his position with the right person, and so in that regard, the client weighs very heavy in what we do.
Listen, like possible pressure. I mean, we're talking about recruiters that are not all that great. Trying to put a candidate into a role that they may not be ready for. Thoughts?
I don't think we as an organization, did that. I think that there were recruiters that really only concerned about getting paid and having the candidate stick for 90 days, because that's our typical warranty period. Yep. That a client gives us. If the candidate leaves before 90 days, we got to give the money back. So, there are recruiters out there that are only looking at 91 days, not your career, not where you want to be in the next 5 years. They're interested in the next 91 days.
I've worked for places where it was straight up fill and bill. And Jim's shaking his head, for you guys that don't know, it's just basically we want somebody in the position right now. We don't care who it is. And I am, as the recruiter, of the company I work for, just putting people into positions so that we could start billing the client. Not the best.
Actually, terrible.
Yeah, you know what? It's so. I've worked for some good staffing companies, and I've worked for some pretty not so great staffing companies over the 14 years that I was a recruiter. And strangely enough, as I start like looking back at my time, like a lot of the places I worked, and it just may have been by chance or they were just not, they were toxic.
Right.
Right. And I didn't know any better. I mean, the first company I worked for was great. And then just like, then I became like an on-site manager, and that's a whole other beast. And then I, did some in-house stuff in the country. But as I was starting looking back on my career, I was like, man, that was a kind of a toxic environment. I just had no idea. I just thought that's how work was.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. That would kill the reputation of the recruiter with the client if that was the sole interest that recruiter had, was just to fill a seat and with an unqualified candidate. It just wouldn't work.
Yeah. Well, yes, it oftentimes didn't work, but I would usually have backups or a bench that I could pull from.
Yeah.
I mean, because you're right. After 90 days, they don't hire or convert them. I'm back to just refilling the position.
Now, understand though that what we're talking about is a contract employee that would like to work full time, which is what you're involved in. Okay. Whereas what we were involved in was placing a full-time permanent employee role right from the get-go.
Yeah.
So our 90 days was, we got paid a fee, and if the candidate left before 90 days, we would have to give back the fee. Okay.
Right.
So it was a very, very different. But on the same token, we only tried to put in the highest quality candidates we could find.
Yeah, but that's when I recruited corporate, it was a lot slower and more meticulous because we're looking for specific types of people.
Exactly.
Yes. So, and some places would never convert. And I would have to let the client know that, or the candidate know that ahead of time. It's like, you could work for, and this is a major corporation that was our client. You could work for them for years, but they probably won't ever hire you full time. That's just how the company rolls.
Yeah.
Yep. So when things you might want to consider when to work with a recruiter. The first is like if you are working and you're in a specific field or industry.
Yeah. So our focus within our organization for 25 years was medical, sales, marketing, and clinical roles. That would be nurses that would support medical salespeople in terms of training the end user on how to use the equipment and so forth. Our specialization was really those three areas, and we knew them very, very well. But you talked to me about banking or banking needs or human resources. I was out. That was not in my league. So, find recruiters that specialize in the area that you're trained in, what your career path has been, because they're going to be your best shot.
Yeah, pretty much every organization. Well, most major corporations are going to use some kind of staffing company.
Yeah.
Right. I've been an on-site manager at Capital One, at State Farm, at McKesson. So I like these are major corporations and brand names, and oftentimes I tell clients, like, if you want to work for a specific company, like, call up the front desk and ask them, what staffing company do you use?
Yes.
Right. And then go to that staffing company and say, hey, I understand that you staff for State Farm. I want to work there. And now you've got somebody on your side that can work on getting you in there. When I was an on-site manager, I would get referrals just like crazy, and then just go to the different departments. And, hey, this resume came from Bob, who works over there in this other department, and just like,
oh yeah,
getting people in.
Oh yeah.
right?
Yep.
So that's it's something and again, I said it earlier, like there's a staffing agency for pretty much every industry.
Mm-hmm.
The last recruiting gig I had, I was recruiting dental professionals. I had no idea that that was a thing. Medical, I knew. I just didn't know dental.
Oh yeah.
Or even hospitality. Somebody, another career coach, emailed me the other day, and she's like, "Where do people go to do hospitality stuff?" I'm like, "Go to a staffing agency that recruits." like you go see the Rangers game at Globe Live. Pretty much everybody behind the concession stand works for a staffing company.
I wasn't aware of that.
Yep, I knew that because I used to work for a company that did. That's what we did. We staffed for. I'm dating myself. It was Texas Stadium at the time, but any of the when they do the monster truck rides, there's like, we need this many people for concession. We'll get you those people.
Interesting.
Yeah. Most of those people, almost every single one of them, work for a staffing company. High-level positions. Like if you're a top-level executive, a C-suite person, probably not a C-suite person. They live in a different world. But if you're upper management, you might want to consider working with a recruiter.
Oh yes. Again, the specialization piece, critical. Having somebody who has experience in as a hiring manager, executive level role. The best way to focus with them is with clients that we're working with or clients that we're not. Maybe they're giving you a list of 5, 6, 8 companies that they'd love to work on. Now we contact those clients. We've never had a relationship with them in the past, but we know now that you're a dynamite candidate and you're interested in working there. We're gonna introduce ourselves to that client, maybe get ourselves into that client, and then help you find a way into that C-suite or that executive level position.
The other thing to remember, Jim, is like recruiters know other recruiters.
Well, that too.
We travel in packs, right? In fact, like I always laugh, like when I was in staffing, right up here in Addison, the Bennigan's in Addison was like a recruiter bar.
Yeah.
Like we were recruiters from IT, general firms like I worked at, accounting and finance. They all just kind of showed up at Bennigan's to have happy hour.
Well, we were associated with a national recruiting organization that actually matched recruiters that work with clients and recruiters that work with candidates predominantly. And we would work on a split basis. So though I don't have the relationship with that specific client, I know that other recruiter did. And when we made a placement, he'd get half the fee, I'd get the other half of the fee, candidate would be placed.
Yeah.
So that happened a lot. And we use that network a lot.
Yeah. I did that when we first started out. When I first started out, especially because I didn't have a book of business, so I was relying on people that I knew that were in the industry to do splits.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. The other reason you might want to consider working with a recruiter, just time constraints. Like if you're working currently, like you're putting in at least a 40-hour work week, you may not have a lot of time to work on your job search. A recruiter can help you out with that.
Without a doubt. And unfortunately, and fortunately, those candidates that were the best candidates, or shall I say, the clients wanted them because they are working and successful in their roles. They're not unemployed, but they have the career path and the background experience that our clients are looking for. If you're employed, all the better. And we understand that there's time restraints on your ability to identify new opportunities. That's the perfect time for a recruiter.
I've always heard, and I want to get your thought on that, Jim, is that employers want to hire people that are currently employed.
They do, 100%. Yes.
I used to know a recruiter, he would not recruit anybody and present them unless the person was currently working. It didn't matter if they were stellar or laid off, he would just not recruit those people.
Right. Now, understand that there has been, and I've seen hundreds of resumes, those resumes that say 2021 to present, and they no longer work at that job for the last 3 months. Um, you're going to be shot out from the gate in a situation like that. Be honest on your resume. Your resume is important.
It's going to come out anyway that you're not working there once you start having that conversation. Yeah. And so now, I'm thinking one of two things. Okay, are you trying to deceive me?
Yeah.
Or are you just so lazy that you can't get your resume up to date?
Yeah.
And either way, I don't really want to talk to you anymore.
Exactly.
I like this bit, like in the next section, Jim, is like when to avoid working with a recruiter. The first is like early in your career.
Yeah, it's so difficult when, for example, the client says, my son just graduated college and he'd love to get into a new role. And I know we've been using you for the last 5 years. Can you help my son find a job? And we hate those calls.
Like, I don't know. What does he do? Sure, let me get right on.
He's in the entertainment business. And I don't know the first thing from entertainment other than going to a movie house and seeing a movie. So, candidates that don't have a background or just coming out of college, you need to get a little more experience before you go into a recruiter.
I love working with college grads because one, you focus on and we just say about it, like work on helping them write their resume to focus on what they've achieved, because nobody cares if they delivered pizza.
Oh, right.
Right. And but that, and then of course just the prep and the network. Right. And the other one I thought was always funny is if you have a unique career goal.
Give me an example of that, Jason.
If you're a social worker, probably a recruiter's not going to be able to help you out.
Well, it depends. I mean, if you specialize in placing social workers, different story.
Well, that's true. That's true. You got Jim threw me a curveball right there. But let's say, or you said entertainment.
Yeah.
Right. Like, are there companies that, of course, there's like agencies that staff models.
Absolutely,
or actors or like that sort of thing. But like those are going to be really niche.
Yeah.
Not like something that you're going to get into. It's just like any type of recruiter.
Right. But again, it never hurts to ask, friends, family, recruiters, and maybe in a networking meeting, who they know in the entertainment business, who they know in human resources, who they know in yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just asking questions all the time as you are trying to identify a new position is key to finding that next job.
I think that, and as we're having conversations, it's always important to ask, is there anybody else that you can think of that I might benefit from having a conversation with?
Yeah.
And they most likely, well, I don't know, let me think. But that's okay. At least have like they may come back with somebody to refer you to.
Yeah.
So, Jim, tips for working with recruiting. And you had a whole list of other stuff that I hadn't thought of when I was doing the notes.
Yeah. So I wrote down some notes ahead of our today's discussion. Well, we talked about be clear about your goals. Clearly communicate with your recruiter what you're looking for, what's been missing. That recruiter really can help understand you better if you can share your goals with the recruiter. Number 2, we talked about providing a strong resume is key.
Yes.
Being honest, being transparent. If you were fired from your last job, let the recruiter know, because if you don't, as you're in front of the client, you may get caught up in not being transparent with the recruiter. Recruiter needs to help you, guide you, and be able to address those things that you may not want to talk about.
I think, over communicate rather than under. And a lot of it is like in the phrasing, because if you got terminated from a position.
Right. The other thing that really irks a recruiter is if we're working with a candidate, despite working or not working, and we have a interview lined up, we need to hear from that candidate. We can't wait 3 days. We can't wait 5 days. We need to hear from you right away. You need to stay very, very connected with the recruiter through the process.
The debrief process.
Yes.
Right? And that should take place right after the interview, not, like you said, 2 or 3 days later. Because sometimes it is a matter of the candidate thinks that it went very well.
Mm-hmm.
The employer, your client, didn't think it went well. You're in the middle. You know they're a good candidate, but if you can't get to them to let the employer know, okay, yeah, we talked about Susie being nervous,
Mm-hmm.
but I do think that she's a good,
Mm-hmm.
to help sell them to the client. When you don't have the debrief, you can't do it.
Exactly. And then further, be open to feedback. Feedback is really, really vital. And recruiter, having known his client and knowing the industry, can help the candidate be better prepared. And they have to be coachable. The candidate needs to be coachable. Recruiter has the experience, the knowledge, the years of experience. Listen to your recruiter. We talked about networking, leveraging the recruiter's network and others. Follow up. Follow up is absolutely key. Not to the point where you're becoming a pain in the rear end, but polite follow up is really important for the candidate to consider.
I think absolutely. I think in working with recruiters, the more that you're able to establish the relationship, you talk about trust.
Yes.
Every relationship has to be built on trust.
Mm-hmm.
And if that is missing, it's just not going to work. A recruiter could be a good ally for you and a good source to help get you placed, but they're going to have to be able to trust you, and vice versa.
Without a doubt. Now, here's one that I didn't like as a recruiter, knowing that my candidate was using other recruiters. However,
yes.
Now not being actively in the chair of a recruiter, I would suggest use other recruiters. Not all recruiters have the same clients.
Yeah.
Not all recruiters, have enough job orders to provide you with a conduit into a new opportunity. That being said, you need to be very careful not to say, hey, I'm working with Joe Blow, the other recruiter, because the recruiter doesn't want to hear that. As a matter of fact, if he knows you're working with another recruiter, chances are you're no longer going to be on top of his list.
Yeah, that is true. You want to kind of hold those cards close to the vest, but you're right. They're going to have different clients, and you never know what opportunities are going to hit at any particular time. So I think, like, just in general, the more people that you're able to talk to and just network with, talk with, the better off you're going to be in the job search.
Exactly.
And if they're recruiters, even better.
Jason, by following these areas that we're talking with you today about, you'll land that job faster than you know. But it's going to take work and practice and prep, mock interviews, other seminars, networking to get that job that you've been dreaming about.
Yeah, you were talking about somebody. We have coming up Thursday. We have a networking event here in our office from 3 to 4:30. We have Sandy Knight, who is on our mock interview team, and she's an HR consultant and career coach, and we'll be doing a presentation titled "How Searching for a Job is Like Searching for a Kidney."
Wow.
Sandy has had a kidney transplant, so we're interested to see that. So if y'all are interested, come on down, and if you're local, come see me Thursday at 3. It's going to be amazing. Jim, any final thoughts?
Well, lastly, it really is about professionalism and presentation. Now, most of the time in working with national recruiters, you may not see them face to face, but you may see them on a Zoom. Look the part, get a haircut, make sure that you don't have dirt on your fingernails, dress well. You got to fake it till you make it. And this is really important. Consider all the aspects of the hiring process is really key.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've got to make a good impression in talking to anybody, but it's inevitable that in your job search you will be dealing with the recruiter at some point. Even if you're referred by somebody else, you're going to be that. They'll get to that
I'm going to give you a little story. We were working on a vice president for a medical company, and he lived in Los Angeles, and the interview was going to be on Monday in Michigan.
Okay.
And this particular candidate was really great. It was all by phone at the time that we didn't have Zoom. It was all by phone. We finally decided a client wanted to bring him into Michigan. This was going to be the final interview. And he was a stellar high-level executive. He went there to Michigan, well prepped. He was looking the part, with the exception of when the hiring manager said, "We're not going to be able to move forward with Joe." And we said, "How come?" He says, "Because Joe came to the interview with dirt under his fingernails." He had worked in a garden in Los Angeles, his garden in Los Angeles on a Sunday, and I guess there was some dirt under his fingernails that he didn't consider. Anyway, the hiring manager didn't hire Joe because of the dirt under his fingernails. And Joe was a high-level executive. So think about it when you're interviewing. Your fingernails, the rest of your body, your hair, your presentation, your body, posture, all those things are important.
I must spend a lot of dirt. I mean, if you're going to pass on that, but you know what? People, you just never know when we're dealing with people, right? Because I was in corporate. I'm not going to say the company, but I was a corporate as a recruiter, and I found it was a very hard job requisition to fill. It just was just hard. I found almost what was the perfect match. And this does not happen.
Right.
You know that job descriptions and resumes do not perfectly match up ever. I've never seen this but one time in my 14 years as a recruiter. It does not happen. Get the guy prepped. I get him interviewed. He interviews great. He obviously knows the job. I get him in with the hiring manager. I'm laughing. It's so stupid. The hiring manager passed because he didn't like the color of the guy's shirt.
Yeah.
I mean, what?
Right.
And I'm like, are you crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Apparently he was a little crazy. But that's why he passed on this. I was like, oh my God. So, yep, working with those recruiters, guys. Jim, we're about out of time.
Wow, that went fast.
It did go very fast. Fun question for the day.
Yes.
Have you ever undressed a mannequin?
Wow. Yeah, I got to say that there's been some mannequins that I would have liked to undress.
Warner. Oh, that's a no for Jim. I said no as well. It's weird. It just came up not too long ago at a family gathering, and it's like Christmas, and my brother-in-law was shopping, and it was like the last jacket, and he just took it off the head. I'm like, that is so weird and bizarre, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, that'll be a fun question for Caffeinate Your Career. Next week, Jim will be back next week, and we will be discussing why who you list as a reference is important.
Mm-hmm.
So come back next week for that. Y'all come see Sandy Thursday at 3. And if you want to do mock interviews for next month, let me know. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.